Joining us now, Josh Hammer, Senior Counsel at the Article 3 Project and Senior Editor-at-Large of Newsweek. Welcome back to the program.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Josh, your thoughts on Walz being added to the ticket this morning?
You know, it's a somewhat inexplicable selection. I mean, Democrats had their absolute perfect candidate in Josh Shapiro, who was interviewed at the Naval Observatory just a few days ago. I mean, he was very much in the running. He was vetted. He was one of the final contenders. Josh Shapiro won Pennsylvania over Doug Mastriano in the 2022 Pennsylvania gubernatorial election by double digits. He is very popular there. Pennsylvania is the largest battleground state on the current electoral college map. So, you know, I can't help but think that either Democrats made an unforced error here or potentially both or there is some sort of kind of nefarious calculus going on here. And, you know, I don't think that it's necessarily kind of trying to avoid the obvious here by saying that, yeah, you know, I mean, the Democratic Party base has this Hamas-Hezbollah wing that really does not want someone with a Jewish-sounding name like Josh Shapiro. I mean, it really actually is as simple as that. I think it ultimately works out very well from a conservative Republican perspective, though. Tim Walz is a communist loonbag. I mean, this is someone who has kind of the pretense, the affectation of a moderate. He does this whole kind of folksy Midwestern grandpa kind of thing. He is anything but a moderate. Tim Walz was literally ground zero of the post-George Floyd riots summer of love with the Black Lives Matter Antifa radicals back in the summer of 2020. If Tim Walz had actually done his job and send in the State Guard, the National Guard, send in Minneapolis PD, and nip that thing in the bud, we wouldn't have had $2 billion of property claims from all the vandalization, all the looting all across America during that summer in America's urban corridors. This is someone who has said that he wants to buy or purchase or invest in a ladder company to help illegals get over the Trump's border wall. And then when they get to Minnesota, they get in-state tuition for universities, they get driver's licenses. He's on the wrong side of every issue out there. So Republicans are going to have an absolute field day here. There is no shortage of Oppo research here, no shortage of evidence, I think, that can pin down Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as the most far-left ticket in modern American presidential political history. I just can't get over the fact, though, that they had, just from my perspective, a pretty objectively better candidate on paper. And again, the only thing that I can think of as to like why they just chose not to pick him, even though he was a finalist, was because they have these radicals wearing keffiyehs, flying Hamas, Hezbollah flags in the street, and they really are appeasing that wing of the party. But at the end of the day, Kamala Harris arguably is of that wing of the party herself, so it kind of makes sense.
No, it does make sense, but what do you mean? I mean, I have a theory about what's going on. I think that they sat down, they being the Democratic Party, sat down and they made a calculation. They looked at they surveyed the land, and then they thought, well, if we go with Shapiro, he's a moderate, that's the Democratic Party angling for the moderates of the country. But there's not a guaranteed shot of getting the moderates because look at what is going on with the economy. Moderates are swayed, for the most part, by the economy. But on the other hand, you go for a guy like Tim Walz, and this is just a gambit, in my opinion, of the Democratic Party really reaching for the super progressives who they know will show up. So it's almost a gambit of, we know these people will show up, we don't know if the moderates will show up.
Yeah, you know, there's probably some of that going on here. I mean, let's be clear. Josh Shapiro is not a moderate. I mean, he has slightly more nuanced perspective on like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, for example. But I mean, Josh Shapiro is someone who, you know, very pro-abortion, anti-Second Amendment, anti-gun rights. I mean, you know, he's been wrong on virtually every issue that's come across his gubernatorial desk as well. But again, he has kind of just the aesthetic and the rhetoric. He actually was surprisingly well-spoken in the aftermath of the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt after Donald Trump there. Tim Walz, though, I mean, the guy is not exactly dripping with charisma. He's not exactly particularly well-spoken. I mean, there's this viral clip already I'm seeing on social media of his daughter who was openly confiding to an interviewer a couple of years ago that she was telling the Black Lives Matter rioters in Minneapolis to warn them in advance when the National Guard was off duty so they could kind of go riot and smash windows and grab stuff from stores and whatnot there. So this is a radical track record there. And again, I can't help but think that there's going to be really just delicious, delectable opposition ads from the Trump-Vance campaign as a result of this.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.